Welcome everyone. In this video we will be exploring the component brush, and in order to do so we're going to make sure we've got landscape mode selected, the sculpt tab selected. Let's have our sculpt tool selected, and then moving one to the right in our list of brushes we're going to move on down to the component brush. Now you may remember when we created our landscape we got to decide how many components made up our landscape, and with my landscape here selected in my world outliner, I can see that I've got 64 total components. The components are these larger square sections that you see out in your landscape when you have not built your lighting just yet. I've got 8 across and 8 down, and you'll also notice that being in the component brush mode here, I do not have that circular style brush out here, the spotlight brush as I like to call it. Instead, I can raise or lower entire components of landscape. Now the tool strength will determine how quickly I can raise or lower it. And let's just demonstrate this quickly. So I am currently just going to raise up one component here, left click to raise it up, Control Z, and then holding down Shift, left click, that will sink it on down. Now you'll notice that I'm only highlighting one square at a time here, one component, and that's being determined right here with my brush settings. If I change this to, let's go 4x4, or 4 I should say, brush size of 4, you'll see that I select my brush size is 4 across and 4 down. So now I could raise up a little bit. Say I want to change my brush size down to 2. 2x2, and then I could raise it up again like so. Now I'm just going to hit Control Z here a few times. Now what are some potential uses for this? Well, I don't see a whole lot of use for this, but maybe, let me just jump out of my landscape project here. Maybe you're looking to build a building pad, something like this. My dad actually had a excavation company such as this, and they built building pads for buildings all the time. A flat surface. That could be one use for doing that. Maybe you want to create an old school tactical RPG style map. Technically, you could create something like that. You'd need a giant landscape, but you could raise up some components up and down to create a look such as this. Or maybe you just want to create some sort of like natural Mayan pyramid. You can see how there's sort of different levels raised up here as well. Now let me just jump back into my landscape, and I'm going to show you one of the drawbacks that you may run into when working with the component brush. I'm going to go back to a brush size of 1. Is if I raise up one component and then I choose an adjacent component, what you're going to notice is you get a little awkwardness here, and I got to fly on down to see it. But essentially I've raised up that ridge right there as well, and that's not easy to get rid of. You could use a smooth or flatten tool to try to get rid of that. But I would suggest when working with the component brush, let me just hit Control Z here a few times, to try to figure out what you'd want your base level to be at. Say we've got a 3x3 area like this. Raise that up. And then if you have like another layer of the cake, as I like to say, let's go 2x2. Raise that up. And then if you got another layer of the cake, so to speak, we'll go with 1. Raise that up. And that's going to prevent you from seeing those weird ridges. In addition to that, you're going to want to ensure that you're not raising components that are adjacent to one another like this. If I was to raise this up, you're going to see that weird ridge. Let me Control Z that. However, if I was to lower this, doing Shift and left click, lowering it, you don't see any of that weird ridge at all. So just some tidbits of information for how to work with the component brush effectively. All right, guys, that's going to do it all for this one. We will see you in the next one.